Matt, my friend, welcome to the Manufacturing Transform podcast. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
I've been looking forward to chatting with you on this for quite a long time. You and I have known each other now for 8 years, maybe 7, something, quite a long time. You were one of the early adopters of ProShop, and now in 2 different businesses. So share just a little bit about your background, how you got into machining, and then we'll get into your ProShop story.
Well, I'm a 3rd generation manufacturing. My grandfather had the Bridgeport line here in Illinois, and then my dad was a sales rep in the industry. When I got out of college, we started to do our own manufacturing. He started a shop called Modern Graphite, and through that, I started to do complex 3D machining, which brought me into doing. I started off with doing a lot of core and cavity work for mold shops, real complex core and cavity work. I got into 5-axis 2004, which is 20 years ago, 21 years ago. My business model at the time was buying equipment that my customers could not afford. And so at the time, mold shops would be like, well, I can't really afford to have a 5-axis, so I would offer that, and maybe they would use me to pick out corners on a cavity from 2 or 3 times a year. But then, of course, what happened with 5-axis. It just got so popular, and now everybody's got a 5-axis. Not everybody, but it's pretty much mainstream. But that's kind of how I got started in complex machining. It brought me into doing some medical, aerospace. I got really into prototyping, doing like multi-process, super complex projects. So I'd market myself as, if you can't do it, give me a call before you pass. And I got what I wished for. There's not a lot of money in that, but
Sure.
We got really good at machining the stuff that no one wanted to do. That company was called 3D Industries. Sold that off, and I kept part of it, which was the graphite machining. So that I have a company now called 3D Graphite Machining. And we've used ProShop at both 3D Industries and now 3D Graphite. So
yeah, and I remember walking through 3D Industries and seeing some of those parts you made, and they were indeed just intensely complicated and high tolerance and multi-process, like you said. Just really impressive stuff.
Yeah, it drove my guys crazy. So, I was an owner and doing sales. And so it's, sure, we can do it. And then, Bob Miller, who's my first employee, still gives me a lot of crap for putting, I had a lot of confidence in it.
Yeah. Well, when I was at your, at 3D Graphite recently, and you were talking about one of the guys there being the best, graphite programmer in the nation, like bar none, right?
Maybe the best CNC programmer in the world, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you'd really rank that, but what I was trying to say is he's spent the last 20 years with me doing all the projects that no one wanted to do, and also, Inconel, different types of plastics, aluminum, Hastelloy, graphite, all sorts of different types of tool steel. So he's just his experience is, I don't know how it could be matched. It's just always crazy parts. So we have I feel the best 5-axis equipment on the market. We've always had that. So it's just really always pushing the limits on what's possible. So
super cool.
Yeah.
So let's go back a few years. Before you decided to get ProShop, what was going on that you realized that this is not working?
I thought about that a little bit yesterday while I was getting ready for this. I could tell you a quick story that really what happened was I was fishing. I used to have a fishing lure company. I musky fish and had a company called ERC. So I was running that and had my job shop called 3D Pros at the time. I was kind of half running my dad's business too. And I had E2 at the time. And I remember fishing, and it was just such a chaotic mess. I was on the phone in the middle of Canada on a sat phone. Back then you had to have a sat phone to communicate. It was all day. And my buddy I was fishing was a lot older than me, and he was retired, and he's just laughing, going, you have to do something different. Like so that was where really the whole thing started. And I'm like, he's right. I was going to run out of gas, and I had always tried to streamline my business so that it worked for me instead of me just creating a job and just running that standard. I always call it a pirate ship, that standard chaotic mess at the job shop. It's a lot of fun and it's exciting, but it's not scalable. So if you're always pushing the limits like I do, you're always redlined. And so that was the moment where I was like, I got to do something. And that literally, like, not too long later, Nate told me about
Mhm.
you and what you
Right.
were doing. I was like, I need to talk to him like right now. And that was I kind of, are you familiar with the hero's journey?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that was kind of like, I thought I was going up, but I was really going down. And that was my rock bottom moment. And you were there at my rock bottom as I bounced up to take me off. And it was like a death rebirth situation. It was real. I mean, it
Right.
shattered me. It brought me down to my knees. That's a real thing. I was getting ready to quit. It was just too much.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before. Just the pressure of the business, the million paper
Mhm.
cuts all day, every day. I imagine. I mean, I know
Yep.
lived that myself. So I know how hard it can
We
be.
all have.
That's why I say it's the hardest business in the world. I can't think
It
of
is.
another, maybe running an ER. I've been watching ER shows lately and like, holy shit, that looks stressful too. But machining,
Right.
yeah, it is not an easy business. So Nate introduced you to us. Yeah, longtime friend of mine and yours. So grateful he did that. And so did you go through a process of like evaluating other systems, or did you just like once you saw ProShop got a demo, you're like, yeah, this is what I want?
Yeah, because I did overflow work for a lot of different shops that had different types of ERP. I could name them all. And in my opinion, they were all, I mean, the fundamental foundation of these ERPs just were not built for job shops. Even some of the ERPs that marketed themselves as job shop software or even had that in their name, they just weren't. It didn't work, and you know that, and I know that, and everybody that uses those knows that. So it was there. I couldn't find anybody that was happy with their ERP. So I could say I actually looked at all of them, and I couldn't find any that were even close. I mean, there was different levels. Some guys could try to make it work, but when you ask them, "Do you use the scheduling?" They always tell you no, and it's like,
Hmm.
"Are you getting good reports?" No. It's like, well, what are you using your ERP for if you can't do scheduling? You're not getting good data.
Right.
Yeah. So when you came around, and I remember you came in, and because I kind of heard your story about it was like somebody like me built the software. That was where it got my interest. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Yep.
That's how it started. Yeah. And then you came in and showed us everything. I think I bought it that day, didn't I? I think I signed up. I said, I'll take it.
It was a short sales cycle, I'll just say.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that was back in the days when I was the sales team. I was the only
Right.
person on it. So
I also want to say one more quick thing, Paul. One more
yeah.
quick thing. I, I also like that you were. I felt like I was getting interviewed if I was going to be
Mm,
right for Pro Shop. I know you and
mhm.
I have talked about that before, but like that really stuck with me because it's
Yeah,
true, right? You have to have the right mentality and be serious about what you're going to do to be successful with any ERP, not just Pro Shop. But I always thought that
of
was smart
course.
of you guys.
Well, we take and always have taken the long-term perspective on this.
Mhm.
There is no point at all in us signing up, first of all, a shop that's not a good fit as like a business model. A
Right.
company that makes, I don't know, they do like continuous production of something and it's not job shop type work or work order based, jobs, don't care about precision or regulations or security or whatever. So there's that element of it. And then there's the element of it, like, are these guys serious about change management, about the cultural buy-in of their team, about making sure it's a success? Because if they're not, and we've, certainly run across companies that try their best at that, but they're, and no shade on them. Like, people aren't born being experts at change management, right? It's
Right.
really hard in an
Right.
organization that's been doing something the same way for 20 years, right? And everyone's
Right.
accustomed to it, and everyone has their little groove and they're doing their thing. And you say, hey, we're going to blow that up, get rid of all your paper, get rid of the way you've been doing it. It's scary. People dig in. I know you've told me about, the guy that refused to track his time, just like,
The one I
it's hard.
fired.
So when you fired, yeah.
Yeah.
So if a company's not great at it, again, no shade on them, but it's just, we don't want to sign up a shop that's going to fail at that. So yes, we do kind of interview them, make sure the business model fits, the type of business they're running, and they seem like they have, the skill set, or at least open to being coached in how to make this successful at their company, right? And the more humble, the more open companies are, the more successful they're going to be at any kind of change management, right? Whether
Yeah.
that's making, a change on a drawing because the DFM is terrible. Some engineers are like, no, that's how I want it. And other engineers are like, oh, tell me how you could make it better.
Right.
That. And the ones that are open are the best companies to be customers of, or suppliers for. So yeah, and the same thing is true with any kind of big change initiative. So yeah, we do kind of, feel like I'd rather not take a penny from a customer that's going to ultimately not succeed, because that's just churn and waste and friction for everybody. So we just really want to make sure we're aligned with every customer to their success.
Yeah, I'd like to say this to anybody watching that is thinking about buying Pro Shop, or maybe just bought it, that you have to go either all in or all out. Like, it's a complete commitment. So I went so far, as to hire somebody on, within my organization that was full-time Pro Shop manager to get everything done right. A lot of times they'll try to hit the ground running and implement an ERP and not plan for that, but it is so disruptive. I mean, you're going to have to slow down before you go fast. So it's like, it takes a lot of planning, and you got to really, really be dedicated and do it right, like you would any project that you're going to. If you're in manufacturing, you understand engineering and getting your team together and collecting context and scheduling, and you would want to engineer this project like you would any part in your system. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just 100% dedication. Once we went all in, everything kind of slipped through like a greased pig. And that's,
Yeah.
and
That's
as you
good
know, like I
advice.
said, like that, anybody that was giving me any static whatsoever, we ejected immediately.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, thankfully that's not super common, but there's always those outliers, right? And interestingly, if I'm curious to know your perspective, I hear a lot of times that initially an owner is fearful that the shop, the team in the shop, the machinists and people out on the floor are going to be the ones that, dig their heels in and push back. But they're pleasantly surprised that often they're the most eager, because they're the
Yeah.
ones dealing with all the shit that gets piled on them from the office, that, incomplete information, chaotic schedules, tear this down, set this up, here's a job without a lot of, setup notes or tool lists or whatever. And it's hard on them.
Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of business consulting for people that are implementing ProShop or just trying to fix their organization. And I kind of like to make a metaphor simple. I say, like, if you're going to implement, let's say, 5S, super simple concept, right? And it's just, if you're going to implement 5S, the first thing you have to do is just, realize that, you're always going to be really surprised on who doesn't want to get on board with that. It's never, you can't, it's very strange. Even people that have like very clean garages will push back for whatever reason. I have no idea. I can't figure it out, but it's like, if you can get that context and get everybody in a room and talk to them individually about like, hey, what are we doing? And I just basically say, hey, don't you want everybody else to follow the rules? They're like, yeah. I'm like, great. Why don't you start with you and show everybody? And it's a simple, that's the same as ProShop. It's exactly what we did. Like, wouldn't it be nice if at the time, I won't name names, but you know him, but I had a partner, a general manager that was setting up all of our jobs. And he was so busy, wearing too many hats in our organizational
Mhm.
chart that he would send stuff out to the shop and it would be disorganized. And then it would get out to the shop. It was already, the material was late. It was not set in a schedule. Quality hadn't even looked at the part yet until, the day it's done. I mean, it was
Right.
it was a typical crazy job shop, behind on everything. And, when that was our context of our shop. So like if you're talking to anybody in our shop, like wouldn't you want him to slow down and do spend a little bit more time doing everything right? And I was like, yeah. It's like, okay, do that in your little section. And then, and the light bulb went off for everybody. It's all
Sure.
about context. If you're going to implement ProShop or 5S or AS, it's like you got to get everybody on board in a very simple, contextual way first. And most people don't do that. They just
Mm.
assume that people are going to have your same context. That's where traction comes in. Learning how to, take what's in your head. You and I might get it, but the guy that is running 6 machines by himself in that shop might not. That's his world, right? He's not looking at the big picture.
Yeah.
So it's understanding that and kind of bringing everybody up a level to take a peek around is, I think, the most
Mhm.
important part of
Mhm.
implementing an ERP.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's also, people just inherently don't like change, but when you can really show them in an impactful way that this is going to, positively impact their daily job, just hugely, like getting rid of
Oh yeah,
stress or friction or things that frustrate them every day, they're a lot more likely to buy in than,
yeah. I have guys watch your videos a
yeah,
lot. Yeah, that is a
yeah,
huge deal for especially in my shop. So I hired a new guy, and he had never worked in a shop that had a working ERP. And I said, "This is different." So I had him go to your website, and I said, spend the evening or the next few evenings going and looking at different testimonials
mm,
on this website. And he came back in, and then we showed him ProShop, and man, I mean, it was such a buy-in because he saw everybody that was successful because he kind of eye rolled when we said we had an ERP
oh sure, that makes sense.
because he had been at so many shops that didn't have a good system. So I said, no, this is the real deal. And then now he's our biggest fan. He's I think 26 years old, and
Is
you
that the
know
guy that we met when we did the video at your shop
yeah,
recently?
yeah,
He's third
yeah,
generation.
he's great. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So besides E2, how many other just little systems, spreadsheets, databases were you using for, organizing your cutting tools or your ISO or AS system or just all the different things?
I called Rody, who is my
Hmm.
ERP specialist when I was
Hmm.
at 3D, and he also set up 3D graphic. He said 8, and he
8.
listed through them. So probably 8 different systems we
Wow.
replaced. Yeah,
That's a lot. That's a lot of manual
yeah. I
things
mean,
to
it
have to
was a
keep.
lot.
Yeah.
Well, we were trying to keep everything organized. I mean, that was our. I mean, I've always wanted to do that. So yeah, it's an Excel spreadsheet on top of spreadsheet, and I mean, I like to track everything because I have a extreme debilitating ADHD, so I'm inherently unorganized. So what drives me nuts? People that are unorganized. So
Mm.
it's just the way it is, right? So I've always been trying to force my employees to keep everything in its place to kind of control maybe even my chaos. And so, yeah, maybe we overdid it back in the day, but yeah, ProShop just made it easy. It just kind of, yeah, it took, again, like he said, probably we counted 8 different systems or databases that we had to eliminate. Maybe more, actually, if we actually think about it. But
Hmm. Yeah. They add up without even really realizing how many things you've kind of band-aided in over the years.
right.
So do you remember like a first feature once you really started getting into it and realizing sort of what how it all worked, like like a light bulb moment, like this was going to be just such a huge improvement compared to the old way?
Mm, yeah. I mean, the scheduling, of course, setup sheets, but it was really more I felt like it was the the spirit in which you built it. I could feel it. I could see that it was going to work. That was the most important thing. So it was more like a gut feeling of everything all together that got
Right.
me. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I could not live without that scheduling or the setup sheets, just the way that we build it out. There's different levels of that you could use ProShop. I have a lot of friends that use ProShop, and they do not use it to the level that I do. I don't know why. They just brought it to a point where maybe they felt comfortable, and they're like, take a break.
Sure.
But yeah, I bring them to our shop. I show them what we do, and they're like, oh my god. I'm like, it's not that hard. You just
Sure.
incremental,
Yeah.
small incremental movements. It's not like I wove a magic wand and did it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure once the like worst of the pain points are solved, then like they're like, yeah, take a break, chill at
Mhm.
this level. But yeah, there's always more, and it means more efficiency, more profit, more success, less stress. And it's funny that you talk about just the spirit in which it was designed, because I will give 100% of that credit to Kelsey, my partner. He was the guy that built the original spreadsheets that created, which was then the inspiration of the very first modules of, estimating and parts and work orders and how they interrelate to each other. And, and even, the cutting tool module and fixturing. And, he had all this stuff done in spreadsheets back between 97 to 2000 as we were trying to
Oh
just
wow.
keep everything in our shop organized. And, we didn't want to have paper travelers. And so, he built all these pretty whiz bang spreadsheets with Visual Basic macros that would spawn tabs automatically when you got a new repeat order and stuff. But, we very quickly hit our heads against the limit of what that was, the capabilities of Excel. But it was that's, was the inspiration for, when we brought Matt in to just redevelop all this in a web-based application. And so I just love this notion that there are now, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shops all running off of Kelsey's original vision from more than 25 years ago.
That's
It's
gotta be
just,
Yeah,
I
that's gotta
love it.
feel pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. And he's such a
Yeah,
humble
cheers to
guy.
him. He really did a good job. I mean, I don't think I was trying to I'm always looking because I'm a student of ERP, it's always interesting if there's anybody that's on your heels.
Hmm.
I have not seen anybody that's even close. So, it's great. Yeah.
Well, we got to still keep the pressure on, but yeah, yeah, it's to have that kind of an impact, and on so many companies, so many family-run businesses. I'm sure the financial impact, is in the hundreds of millions. I don't know, just like the improvements in efficiency, the additional revenue, the new hires as companies grow. I was just talking to a shop yesterday. They onboarded ProShop when they were 5 employees back in 2018, and now they have 73. And
Mm, wow.
like, oh, well, yeah, that is, they're a serious driven organization. But so let's talk about getting rid of paper. Everyone that has paper travelers that's grown up in that knows the feeling of losing them, of not being able to read them, understand them, not being able to find a job because customer asks for status. You're like, I don't know, I'll have to go out there and look around. So um, yeah, what was that like, getting rid of paper out of your shop?
I mean, it took a little bit. We still use a little tiny bit of paper in one of our areas of manufacturing right now that we can't get rid of. It's a long story. I won't get into it, but believe me, we our goal is 100%
Mm,
paperless. It is like our goal is always 100% automation.
right.
But no, I mean, being 99% paperless makes it so easy. If I actually had an employee that used to work with me at 3D Pros, which was when I had E2, and he came in and we took him out to lunch, and I showed him what we had, and he now is a foreman at another shop, and
Okay.
he couldn't believe it. he couldn't believe what we were doing because it was always my dream to implement an ERP. I mean, I really tried hard to implement E2. In fact, he tried really hard to help me implement E2, and he was just blown away by it. And looking around, and his shop is obviously struggling with paper, and it's a mess. And he's like, "Can I bring these guys in here?" I'm like, "Sure, open door. Anybody who wants to come in my shop can take a tour. I'll give them the grant. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you just don't know what you're missing, right? You could never go back ever
Yeah, people say
to
that
the
for
old
sure.
way. Once you use ProShop, it is laughable thinking about going backwards in time. That's like when I'm doing business consulting with different job shops and they don't have ProShop, and I'm trying to convince them to buy it, and they don't know what they're missing. They have no idea what it's like, and the 10,000 problems that can be solved, in a couple of years. So
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
and the principle that, it's universal beyond ProShop, but the principle of making all the information that everybody needs instantly available on a computer to them right where they are working, instead of having it be a piece of paper or a stack of papers
Mhm.
that move and can only exist in one place at one time. So the person that has that paper is the only one that really knows right at this moment the status of it or how many parts or whatever. So it's just conceptually, it's such an unlock. But at the same time, so many companies struggle with the idea of getting rid of it. It's like a safety blanket that they're like, oh no, we can't get rid of this.
Yeah, it's
So
insane.
yeah, it's
Yeah, they're wrong
talking to
about
them
that.
about it is it's a real educational piece. But I
Yeah.
get it.
No, I
I get it.
I feel your pain. I see what they're doing. I will say another thing that is interesting. Like when you have ProShop, you can train. So if you're paperless, you can take somebody from A to Z so fast because everything's in ProShop. Your training's in ProShop. Your quality's in. I mean, like everything is like at your fingertips. So we could train somebody on our system from brand new, right? That comes in within like a week
Hmm.
once they figure out where the buttons are at. So it's just like, and I there's a real lack of like what I would consider A-list people. So you really need an A-list person to be able to work in a job shop that's unorganized to make money. You just need you need studs to do that. There's not a lot of those guys left in manufacturing, and we're about ready to start ramping up like crazy, I think. So it also helps you to utilize like maybe B list or C list type of people in your organization and make them better faster.
Hmm.
So I think that's a huge selling point for you guys. That like
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to bring I mean, I just can't even. And plus, imagine if an employee is going to go and interview at 5 or 6 different places, and they're really good at what they do, or they're young up and comer. Like, where are you going to go? To the place that's got stacks of paper, or are you going to go to my shop where everything's automated? And you got robots and pro shop, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
selling point.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
know I've talked to many clients and machinists that said, yeah, this is why I came to the shop. I was tired of dealing with all that other crap. Yeah, there's so many anecdotes. I've seen them when I've been in shops and talking to a machinist, or where we're shooting a video and a customer tells me about them. But literally folks that are coming out of fast food, good guys, mechanically inclined, there to learn, and very quickly setting up 5-axis machines on night shift, right? Just following the
Yep.
videos and the work instructions that are all laid out right in front of
Hmm.
them.
Yep. That's what we
And
do. Yep.
they weren't an A-list person when they started because they're brand new at machining. They've, flipped burgers or fried chicken, but that's it, but they're eager.
Right.
They want something better for themselves. They like working with their hands, and they can
Right.
learn so fast and get up to speed and be productive and profitable without months or
Yeah.
years of training.
Plus your org chart, like we are encourage everybody to look at our org chart, and we have detail. You have your standard org chart. We've detailed it out to like the nth degree with
Mm,
essential functions. I mean, just it's everything is in our org chart, so they can learn about who's above them and below them. to the side of them and everybody's function and essential functions. And it's that's important too for somebody that's new coming in to understand the way this river is flowing.
Right.
It's a map, so like we love that. We use that a lot actually. And especially when you're talking about problem solving, we use our org chart a lot, your org chart for root problem solving. So if someone wants to bring a root problem into a meeting, they want to change policy, like it's always org chart based.
Mm. Yeah, let's dig into that a little bit, because this comes into traction, right? And the
Yes.
EOS method. So tell us
Right.
a little bit more how you. I've always been fascinated by the way you talk about this.
Well, I'm rewriting traction. I've been doing that for probably, oh man, it's probably been 5 years. So it has to be rewritten for manufacturers because it's kind of written. I mean, Gino Wickman's a genius, and I understand what he went through and why he wrote traction. However, there's a lot of holes in it when it comes to manufacturing. We could do a whole podcast on that if you want, but I'll give you an example. Like when we talk about like an issue, like at some point, if you're using traction in a shop, you're going to run out of issues. That's a problem, right? People are going to be like, oh man, I don't know what to put on here. It's like, well, that's a good problem to have. Well, okay, so you have to use traction and you have to start working in continual improvement. So you're kind of creating issues and you're getting people to kind of think outside the box and how can we improve and all that. And so it's all about workflow and how everything is flowing in your shop, right? So it's all about the org chart and how everybody's working together. If there's a weak point in your org chart, a lot of times, I mean, shit, when I first started, 9 times out of 10, the problem in my shop was all the way up the chart to me. And all I was doing was solving symptoms down below, right? So it's one of those things where we're solving a lot of these root problems or improving our system based on the different place settings in the org chart. So people, as we start to talk about that, about root problems inside the org chart and find out who's to blame or how we're going to fix things, people are starting to understand the hierarchy and who's doing what and who's responsible for who and all that. So it's kind of ties everything together so that they can understand the whole mechanism and why it's important to do the things that they might think are not important, right? And how that little tiny thing that we're asking, time tracking or checking this box or triple checking this or whatever that is going to affect sales.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
everything is connected.
Yeah, I would definitely love to dig in, maybe like do a webinar on what you've done with their org chart, because I think there's a lot of wisdom in going even deeper than what we ship it with, and just sort of have as a generic structure for a shop. Such a cool concept. Maybe you kind of already alluded to this earlier when you talked about the hero's journey and hitting rock bottom, but I like to ask the question: how has ProShop impacted you personally?
It's allowed me to be able to take a vacation without it being attached to
Without a sat phone?
without a sad phone. No, I mean that's really what I've always wanted. I need the way that I'm looking at business is I need my business to work for me instead of me working for it. That's just what I decided to do. And I have a lot of I do a lot of things at once. I have, all sorts of different hobbies and different businesses that I'm working on and startups. And that's just the type of scalability that I need. So yeah, without ProShop, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I would have just opened up a dog daycare or something like that. I don't know. But if you're going to try to have your manufacturing business work for you, you have to have a system, right? Because people don't manage people, systems manage people. So I needed a system in which I could manage. That's what you gave me, and it works.
Well, I'm glad it's freed you up to do other things that you want to do, love to do. That's fantastic.
I will say one other thing, Paul, that it also provide because like in the context of traction, I would have the visionary place setting on that, and with that I need a really good integrator.
Mm.
And my whole career, when everything was all messy, I did not have that integrator, and I wasn't able to do what I'm good at, which is the CEO type of top level context, sales, marketing, getting everybody to work together. So I wasn't freed up to do that type of thing. It was always I was always dragged down into the swamp every single day with issues up to my eyeballs. So it just it I'm way better at my job now that I can be at 30,000 feet than I was in the swamp. It's just
Mm.
that's just the way I am.
Yeah. Well, that just comes back to this idea of working on your business, not in your business every day. And like you said,
Right.
most leaders get pulled into the swamp, or down into the brig of the pirate ship, or whatever analogy you want to use.
Right.
Um, but yeah, because there are things that only you can do for your business that really move the needle in a significant way. And if you're spending, 6 or 7 out of your 8-hour days or 10-hour days, fighting fires and in the weeds and minutia, you just can't work on those big things that those levers that you can pull to change the trajectory of your business.
Right. Agreed.
Sometimes we have clients tell us that their culture has changed after really getting up to speed with ProShop. Has that been the case at your businesses?
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of is that I did change our culture from a firefighting pirate ship to a well greased geared system. So it's yeah, I would say that that's all about culture. So I feel like you'd have to ask my employees. I mean, they would be the judge, but I mean, from what all the feedback that I get from them, and the fact that I keep really good employees for a very long time. I might have my first employee. I get a lot of feedback from customers and my employees and everybody that works with us that we have built a really good culture around that. I don't see how you can have a great family culture without having a system in which you work. So all the great shops that I've been in, and I've been in a lot of really good shops, and I've been in a lot of terrible shops. And if you were going to say, like, what's the difference between a great shop and a struggling shop, it's just going to be the system in which they work. That all has to do with whoever is in charge of that ship. So it's like 99% of the time, it's the owner issue that they don't have a good culture. They want to blame everybody on the floor, or their customers or it's all about self-reflection. So if that owner has really honest self-reflection and is humble and can root problem solve, the culture will respond. And then when you have a great culture, man, people start to work. It almost becomes like a cult where people are just like so bought into the system. They get excited about it. So that's kind of it's been an unexpected joy for me that to watch this culture blossom the way it has
That
over the
sounds
years. So, yeah.
That's something to be proud of for sure. So you mentioned customers just a minute ago. I know that I've heard you talk about using ProShop as part of your sales process and a sales tool. And I know you've had some really cool feedback from customers and prospects alike. But yeah, can you just share maybe a couple anecdotes from that?
I can remember one. I can't remember what her title was, but are you familiar with Harris Precision? L3
That was
Harris,
the
or
one
it's
that
a
was on
Harold.
my, yeah, I know they're a really tough company.
Yeah, very, very, very tough company to work with. And for it's a lot of real complex machining and tight delivery times. Anyway, the hardest company I've ever worked for, and their head, I think it was head of quality. I can't remember what her title was, but she came in and we showed her Pro Shop, and she says, "Wow, that's sexy." And she's like, but she said that she was going to go back and talk to her people and see if she can get all of their vendors to sign up for Pro Shop, something like that. And she meant it. So it was because everything was there that she needed. I mean, she saw like that was like for me, it was like if I could get somebody in the door and if I could get my manufacturing manager, Matt Rody, to show everybody our system, I knew I was going to get them because the most important thing when someone's outsourcing to you is that they're losing control. They're trusting you that you're giving them this 12-week lead time and you're going to be on time. The parts are going to be right. It's so important, especially for companies that we did work for, like SpaceX and Google and Microsoft and all of those. It was yeah, or right now, like let's say a mold shop is calling me to do a set of electrodes because their machine goes down or they're busy, right? EDM's at the last step of the process. If there's one, and a lot of times my customers don't even check my electrodes before they put them in their EDM. They trust me because I do 100% inspection on all my parts. I don't recommend that, but like if you don't have a system, I mean, I was talking with Matt, we literally have a 99% quality rating. Like for real. Like that's unheard of in what we do. Our delivery is, I think, something like 96 or 97%. We're never late. And even those times that we were late, like I complained about it because it wasn't really our fault. It was our customer's fault. For real. So like we're always
Sure.
on time. And anybody listening to this that does work for us, like they know that. Like it's just like they can't understand it because our competitors are always late.
Mm.
It's a problem.
But they don't have a system. They don't have a good system.
They don't have a great system to work within, right? They don't build in. They everybody's scheduling everything to the nth degree. So anyway, my point is like when they see our system and we explain to them how we schedule and how we actually put time in there for mistakes. We're not like, yeah. So, we don't lie to somebody and give them a lead time that we can't hit. We if we think it's going to be 8 weeks, we probably would tell them 11 weeks.
Mm.
And when they ask us to lie, they're like, we can't, we just say no. Because we got, so many people that want to put their work in our shop. Like we have the ability to do that. But anyway, yeah. So the Pro Shop has been my best tool for marketing. For sure. Second would be the state-of-the-art equipment that we buy. But yeah, number one is 100%. I guess, no, sorry. Number one would be people. Number two would be the
There you
system in
go.
which those people work, which is Pro Shop. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably
Yeah.
better.
That's a good distinction.
I
Yeah.
would have asked you to edit that out if I didn't catch that.
Yeah. Your team's listening. They're like, what the hell, man? What about me? Yeah. I know you have exceptional folks. That's cool that your very first employee ever in your earliest company is still there with you. So that says a lot.
The biggest pain in the ass ever, too. No.
I know you say
Bob's
that
great.
with
Bob is,
much love.
yeah, he's like a brother. I mean, he's fantastic. And it's funny. He was one of these guys that, to be a really good machinist, you have to be pretty stubborn and confident, right? I mean, he's got to hit the start button on a, $1 million work cell, 5-axis work cell for unattended machining for a weekend, right? That he programmed 3 days before that. Okay. Like you have to have some swag. I mean, you're talking about a guy with some giant balls on him. You know what I mean? To be able to hit that start button. When you
Yeah.
tell him that you want to start a new ERP called ProShop, I mean, he's like, what? I mean, a guy like that'll fight you the whole way because they just don't like change. And I know why, right? He's very set in his ways. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And he is a huge ProShop fan. I mean, he's as big a fan as anybody right now. And it took a long time to get him to buy into it, right? Because he had to slow down so much. You get what I mean? Like having a guy to slow down like that was very, very hard. But
You
also
slow
I will
down
give
to
him this.
ultimately speed up, right?
Yeah. But I will give him that credit that when you're implementing ProShop, there is a balance between like you can overdo ProShop. for instance, like work levels, right? Like I've got, when we first started Pro Shop, we're AS at 3D Industries, and we had all these different things that we had to do, pre-processed checklists, and by the time a job hit our floor, I probably had 5 hours, maybe 6 hours into getting this thing into the system because we weren't efficient yet. But we would do like quick turn prototype jobs that would come in the same day and go out the same day. Boom. And he's like, if I have
Right.
to do this within Pro Shop, we're going to go out of business. So again, I remember this is way back in the beginning. So we just started setting different types of work levels. That was level 1, right? Doing something for Harris would be level 5, and all of them in between,
Right.
But you
Absolutely.
need a guy like Bob that's going to be the voice of reason, the voice of reality, the guy on the ground floor to help you set Pro Shop up so that you can. Although I will say 99% of Pro Shop is right. It took me a while to figure that out. Like I tried to change a lot of stuff, and then later Rody was like, "I told you." I thought I was smarter than the system. I'm like, "Can't we do this?" And no, there's a reason behind all the madness, which is
Yeah.
I get now, which is
Yeah. That was Kelsey's big vision,
Yep.
but yeah, he thought, because we had the same stuff. We had a prototype department, we had production work, and they took totally different paths in the system, like what information you needed, what you wanted to put in. Because there's no point at all in thoroughly documenting something you're only doing once, right? Take a picture, maybe.
That's a big hurdle that a lot of shops that I know that are implementing ERPs will put in front of themselves. Is that they do all sorts of different types of work, from prototype to production to assembly, and I'm like, that's not an excuse. You have to be a little bit creative with Pro Shop. You can be, but I mean, I do. I do at my 3D graphite company right now. I mean, we're selling a saw cut graphite that people give us a shopping list. We're sawing up just material for people every day. Hundreds of packages go out a day, and we're doing we're selling inventoried items that we cut. We sell cutting tools, and we sell wire ADM and consumables, filters, and all that through Pro Shop. We sell. And then all sorts of different, 5 different levels of complexity for manufacturing. So we do all of it within Pro Shop, and we make it work, and it's efficient.
How much touch time would you have on just a job that you're just pulling off the shelf, sawing and selling, and then shipping out or something like that in Pro
Could
Shop?
be
Like
10 minutes.
10 minutes of
Could be
touch
10
time on the
minutes.
on the entire job, and how much in Pro Shop?
Yeah. Oh, in Pro Shop, well, we have automated Pro Shop. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think that, a lot of stuff that you're working on. So, like, again, I probably shouldn't share some of the stuff that we've done, because a little bit of it is kind of like, with the API and things like that. Like Rody has come up with
Yep.
some things where maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, I don't know. But a lot of the stuff that Rody's programmed, we've figured out how to automate some of the processes in Pro Shop, and they're pretty amazing. So stuff that, like, I think that he saved me just working with stuff like on like creating pack slips for like real tiny jobs. He's probably saved me 35 hours a week from just like a
Wow.
quick fix. Yeah. So little things like that. Like, so we're always trying to do like API improvements and just on how to figure out how to cut corners. But yeah, you should do one of these with Rody on all that.
That would be
he's
super
pretty smart
fun.
with that stuff. And I know you guys
Oh yeah, he is.
are doing a lot of that stuff too when you do your continual improvement. So Pro Shop's come a long way since I started with it. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it has changed a lot. It's kind of wild to look at it now, and we look at even just screenshots or things from even just 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm like, whoa, it's
Right.
changed a lot. So, well, Matt, first of all, thank you so much for being willing to come on and share. As I probably say almost every time on these, it's incredibly gratifying to hear how much of an impact it's had on your business, and made it easier, less stressful. I feel like machine shop owners are like some of the most important heroes of our economy, because they are at the foundation, the bedrock of everything else that happens. And if we can help, shops like you do it just a little bit better, hire a few more people, get a few more jobs in, a few more customers, and make more, do it all better. It's time very well spent for us, and we feel like we've succeeded in our mission. So thanks for being willing to come on and share that today with us. I really appreciate it.
No, and thanks for having me. It's been great. I appreciate all you do, and you've been a good friend through this whole journey. And yeah, it's been fantastic. And I know that you do send people my way a lot of times to talk and maybe give some context to people. So anybody out there that's listening to this, if they just want to chat about my journey, I love talking about Pro Shop. You can call me on a Friday evening at 8 o'clock. I'll talk to you on Sunday morning. I love ERP and I love helping people, and I'll tell you everything I know. So yeah.
Well, that's incredibly generous and gracious of you. So, Matt, thank you again, and we'll see you around, I'm sure.
All right. Thanks, Paul.